my name's Nigel Williams. I'm standing for the Reform Party in Fflint Wrecsam. I've been in this area, lived in this area all my life. I was born and bred in the area. I was born in Mancott in Flintshire. I was educated at Flint High School and several schools in Flint actually. And afterwards I actually joined the North Wales Police, became a police officer for several years, worked on CID here in Wrexham of all places. And I've been on crime squad, I've worked on drug squad, I've worked in what's called the rub heel department in police complaints. I had a really serious injury in the police, so I eventually left the police, and I have a maths and physics degree, so I ended up teaching, but that was a little bit like being a police officer but with no power. I did that for 5 years, taught for 5 years, from primary age all through to secondary and A-level age. And after that, I actually went to work in the NHS. And I worked in the NHS initially in the substance misuse department, and I led that department here in North Wales for a couple of years. Because of my maths and physics degree, they then thought I'd be great at performance management. So I then went into performance management and looking at the budget across North Wales for the NHS. I did lots of time actually working in and out of hospitals just to see what was going on, because I wanted to see. I'd worked at the sharp end, but actually when I became an admin person, I really wanted to see what was going on in hospitals. So I actually found out, and actually of my own volition went around all the hospitals, so Ysbyty Gwynedd, the Wrexham Miler here, and also Ysbyty in Glenclwyd. So yeah, so that basically is me really, yeah. Well, because I'm local and I'm born and bred around here, I really feel, I'm retired now. I mean, my job at the moment, I think that's important really. I actually write books right now, just in my spare time really. But I actually thought when the chance came to stand, I thought I can actually use my skills, because I've been and worked with people right across North Wales, from young people to the elderly really, and that is the case. To me, it was really, really important that I could transfer those skills to the Senedd, because having seen what the Senedd is about right now, I think the standard and quality of people who run the Senedd is absolutely appalling, to be honest. And that's the reason I'm here, really, because I think I can do a better job than nearly all the people standing there. Gosh, obviously NHS, there's a huge issue surrounding the NHS. I mean, if I just look at myself really as a candidate, I mean, the waiting list I've been on I mean, I'm retired, I'm 68 now, and some of the things I've waited for, you're waiting now, there's one thing I'm waiting for, I've been told it could be 4 years. There's one thing I'm waiting for, which is 12 months. Another thing I'm waiting for, which is to do with an abscess in my mouth. Actually, I've not heard from anyone at all. So actually, there's huge issues there, really, and we can alter that, really, because having worked in an administration area in the NHS, we can actually alter that completely by ensuring that, a good example is my daughter works for Tesco. If they don't do what they're told, they will get fired. And actually what happens in the NHS, if you don't do what you're told, or you're not doing your job, and you're chief executive, you might be on 100 odd grand, they either move you or they don't do anything about you. So that the reason is, I think we can alter that in a huge big way actually, and actually change the emphasis of the way the NHS works across Wales, and across North Wales particularly. And we know Betsy Cadwallader has been in special measures, you know, and it shouldn't be. You know, you can't get appointments. You go to your GP, you can't get an appointment. I rang my own GP the other day, couldn't get an appointment, wanted a blood test, it's a month. Well, you know what, this is now 2026, and we are not getting any better. We should be at the actual forefront of what we're doing, and we're not. Well, net zero for a start. I mean, it just puts huge additions on bills for energy for everyone. I've seen that in my own home, really. So in reality, if we've got something like net zero on the go, we should be changing that. I mean, anyone with common sense and a little bit of nous about them can actually see that that's something we need to alter. If somebody's got a huge energy bill, which, so I mean, some homes they're paying £300-400 a month just for a detached home. Well, that's got to stop really. Energy can be and should be cheap. I've just come back from France where my family live, and energy there is really cheap in some places, electricity particularly, you know. And we should be looking further afield in terms of, I mean, the net zero agenda is absolutely horrendous in terms of, and it's not really net zero. You don't have to look at some of the wind farms. Well, the actual cost of making them and actually import them into the country, it's huge. And the amount of, if you like, CO2 gases that's used to make them is absolutely horrendous. Well, we should be thinking about small nuclear facilities. They're clean, they're great. Why aren't we doing that? Well, what we can actually do is we can actually change the emphasis and actually, dare I say it, force local councils to change planning laws to ensure that migrants aren't housed in hotels, and actually that there are other facilities for places for them to go. So the emphasis should be that reform do, even though it's not something that it's a Westminster area, if you like, but we should be able to alter that in a huge way by the way we operate within Wales. That's the bottom line, really. So in terms of, you know, rental properties or whatever, really, I mean, that's something when we actually hopefully we'll get into power, you know, that we can actually look at. I mean, I'm a mathematician by trade, as it were, really. I haven't left the police, and there are figures that we don't know right now, and I know for a fact governments hide figures. Well, we want to look at those in detail to see actually what we do across the region and actually see where we can better apportion those funds to ensure, because we want to see people safe, we don't want to see people on the street. I mean, you know, people are here, so let's make sure they've got accommodation for them, and we'll do that. Well, actually, going back to the NHS, actually, you only have to look at a good example would be civil servants. Let's go there first. At one stage, I actually worked within the NHS civil service in Cardiff, and actually what we intend to do is actually cut the civil service by 10%. So that would save money straight away. I don't know exactly how much right now, but it would save money straight away. Also, in terms of some of the other areas within the NHS, there are too many managers who are actually floating around Wales. Let's look at that and see what we can do about that as well, and actually bring money to actually frontline services as opposed to give it to other areas. And the waste that goes on in Wales in terms of places in China where they've got an embassy, planting trees in Uganda, all sorts. There's so much waste on the go. You know, one of the things that the reform are going to look at is waste, and the waste is absolutely horrendous, and we really do need to change that. What I would say, we will be looking at penalties for those people, the chief executives who earn a lot of cash, as it were, and they're not doing their job. And as I mentioned before, you know, my daughter works in Tesco, and people who work in Tesco at a senior level, if they don't actually do as they're told, they're out. You know, the bottom line is here, if people are not doing what they should be doing, then they should be out, bottom line. You know, I can't think of another statutory agencies. People just kept there for whatever reason, and they almost can't get rid of people. Private industry, if you're not doing your job, you're gone, and that's really important to me. So that's what, you know, that's where essentially we'll save a lot of wedge, as it were, really. And also there's lots of waste anyway in all sorts of ways, you know. And I got, you know, right now I could name probably 100 things where local authorities waste cash on. I mean, the amount of jobs, if you like, sometimes that are superfluous to requirements, you know, within a local authority, you know that would be a way of saving cash straight away. I'll actually tell you, my daughter passed away in France, actually, 18 months ago from cancer. Because of that, you know, and because she wasn't diagnosed quick enough, you know, we need to make sure. So I'm really proud that they want to bring in diagnosis centres. It's really important to me, actually, that we tackle people really early who've got cancer and other life-threatening illnesses, and make sure that from the point they're diagnosed, which should be early in what goes on medically for them, that they're actually treated, because the survival rate will increase straight away. But if you're treating somebody 6 months down the line, I mean, a good example, you know, I mentioned about myself going for a blood test in a month. Who knows what's going on during that month? You know, you could be dead. Well, I hope people will see that we've been so different to the waste, the ineptitude that we've had from Plaid and from the Labour Party over 20 odd years, and, you know, actually voting for people you thought. I mean, I come from a big Labour family, and people are telling me now all the time in my family, well, we voted Labour years ago, but never again, because they've changed their emphasis on what they're doing. And actually, I would hope reform would come out at the end of 4 years in the Assembly, so we could actually say what we promised, we gave. As I've mentioned, really, I think I've got the experience. I've worked at the chalk face for a long time. I have lots of experience of speaking to people. I think I can relate to people. Hopefully you think that right now. And hopefully I can do the right thing for people too. And that's why I think, you know, I think I'm votable for, but let the electorate decide about that, I think.